Oh, players, I feel really bad for you. Like, you have these 3 pages, and as soon as you start playing D&D, and you have to know what they all mean, and look how many boxes there are. What do they all mean? What's a bond? What's an ideal? Why would I need performance? What am I going to be doing in this weird game? To a beginner, all of this can seem rather perplexing, overwhelming, and frankly, a little bit like not worth the hassle. So in this video, we're going to talk about some tips for character creation. It's the first thing pretty much everybody does when they first start playing D&D, unless they're the DM, which is a whole different kettle of fish, as you may know if you've seen my videos. But for the players, I'm all about trying to get more people to play the game. And if we can make character creation a little bit less like this, and a bit more like, representative of what the hobby is. And these are not just beginner tips, these are also tips for people who have maybe made a few characters already and ways to kind of flesh them out and kind of a nice checkpoint list to go through to make sure that you've got a character that not only is going to be good in the first couple of sessions, but you're setting up this momentum and this sort of character arc for yourself. So without further ado, here are my 5 tips for character creation in Dungeons and Dragons. My first tip is be realistic about your goals. And I don't mean your character goals. I don't mean those goals. I mean the goals that you have for coming to play a tabletop game. And also your goals for the game itself. Like, what do you want to do? What is the fun part for you? And if you know that, then you can make your character around that. And it's really important that you're honest with yourself. I know that people are going to take the mick out of you if you say that you're a power gamer, or they'll call you a power gamer if you're suddenly doing 30 damage at level 2. But don't listen to them. If you want to play D&D and you want to kill stuff and you want to have a really cool character who's really overpowered and awesome, that's fine. That's what the game's for. If it's possible in the game, then it's allowed, right? Likewise, if you want to join the game to play a character who's maybe a bit more realistic, maybe you want to play a monk that wears robes or a cleric that just wears robes and is really holy, go ahead. People will say that you can wear medium or heavy armor as a cleric, but if that doesn't fit your character, then don't worry. If that doesn't fit your goal, then don't worry about it. As well, if you want to base your character off of another character that you've seen in a media, if you've seen someone on a TV show or a movie or read in a book, and you want to emulate that character, then make sure that you're aware of that as you go in. And a little spoiler warning for taking character ideas from TV shows and movies and stuff. Most of the time, protagonists in things are really good at lots of things, right? And you can't do that at level 1. I once tried to build a character off of Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders, who was simultaneously good at fighting, strong, agile, dexterous, intelligent, charismatic. You get the idea. It's really hard to know where to put that 8. Also, as well, you may want to sort of just be a little bit self-aware of why you're playing D&D in the first place. Are you actually interested in the game? Are you doing it because it's kind of fun? Do you want to try it out? Do you know you want to play the game for as long as it lasts? Is this something that you want to commit to every 2 weeks, every 1 week for the foreseeable future? Or is this something that you just want to try out? My second tip is use a digital tool like D&D Beyond. I promise they're not sponsoring me or anything. They shouldn't. So I remember trying to create all the players' characters just using the player's handbook, and it was a group of people from my workplace, and it took probably 4 or 5 lunch breaks to create all the characters. Right, that's 4 or 5 hours of my life taken up just to create the characters, and even then, they didn't really understand what to do past level 1 anyway. There was page flipping back and forth. The players didn't have the player's handbook, so every time they leveled up, they'd have to borrow mine, or have to tell them, or they'd have to Google it, and then they'd end up Googling 3rd edition or something weird. And I know D&D has always been about pen and paper, and it's kind of great to get back to those roots. But just to start off, why make it difficult for yourself? Why not just do you something like D&D Beyond? You can create up to 5 characters for free. You can try out different combinations of races and classes, and it has all the handy drop-down menus, and it kind of takes away stuff that you can't use, so you're never going to make something that's broken or illegal. You can edit the character whenever you want, and it'll populate the character sheet, which you can print off anyway. Also, whilst you're in the game, you can have it on your mobile phone, and you can kind of swipe between all the different stats, and you can track your health and your initiative and And you can also share your character sheet with your DM, so your DM can have all the characters, and they can check what everyone's got, what everyone's doing, what spells they have, and all that kind of stuff. So by all means, go through the player's handbook, skim it, have a look at all the races, the classes, the backgrounds, to get the flavour, to look at the nice pretty images, feel that nice paper, smell it. But for building the character itself, you don't want to be sat there going back and forth, calculating your skill points and all that kind of rubbish. My third tip for character creation is talk to the other players. You may have a session 0, and if you do, that's great, because then you can talk to the other players. And even if you don't have a session 0, just talk to the other players before you start. Ask them what they are thinking of doing, and then tell them what you're thinking of doing. Not only because of party composition, like you don't want to hilariously end up with an all-wizard party, although that would also be cool. But you don't want to be going in on the first session, meeting the characters for the first time, and then having to come up with how your character would interact. Because whatever your character is, you will always end up spending the first session not really interacting or talking with the other characters, because that's what we do in real life, because we're nerds. So if you know your character is going to be super zealous, super uptight, lawful good, smite all the unholy creatures in the land, suffer not the demon to live, that kind of thing, then you want to know already which characters, which other party members are going to be causing friction with you. You don't want to be this uptight character and you're all about your religion and you're praying 5 times a day and all this kind of stuff, and then there's some kind of heretical rogue little shit, just traveling with you, and you're kind of like, for the first 5 sessions, and not just kind of antagonistical things, but also think of a character that maybe your character would like, or would learn from. Maybe they admire them for some reason. Maybe this rogue character kind of admires the kind of zealous religious character, because they can funnel that power into smiting shit down into pulp, and they're like, wow, this guy's really cool, I want to do that. And there are various ways that you can kind of put this into the game with mechanics as well. There are things like bonds that you can get in games like Dungeon World, which you can nick or ask your DM to nick for you, where you basically have a bond with another character, like you don't like them, blah, 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 not that, but something more complex, and something about wanting to learn from them or teaching someone something, and when you get that, then you get experience. So it's a nice way of encouraging the party to interact with each other in between quests whenever they get the chance, and it's also a good source of inspiration as well. And we all know it'd be great to actually get some proper rules for giving out inspiration. My fourth tip is consider your subclasses when you're creating your character. So some people like to just, when they level up, it's just, oh yeah, I woke up and now I can do these things, whatever. But I always like subclasses and cleric domains and druid circles and stuff. I think it kind of really turns you from like a generic beginner adventurer to something that is a lot more specialized. Like, think of like a rogue, someone who starts off, who's very kind of dexterous and agile, and they like pickpocketing and nicking things and sneaking around, and that's fine. And then they hit level 3 and it's like, well, now I can do magic. I'm an arcane trickster. I like to trick people. I like to sleight of the hand. That's the kind of thing I like. Or you just go full on, well, I like to kill people for money, so I'm an assassin. 2 very different kind of characters. So you should really consider these subclasses when you think of your character already, and also think of how that is going to happen. So when you're kind of doing your 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions before you hit your subclass, keep a thought on how you're gonna segue into that subclass, and which sort of story moments are actually going to maybe trigger it as well. For example, my ranger that I had, I really wanted a Gloomstalker ranger, and we hit level 3. We were in this dungeon, and my character was sent to scout ahead. And even though there were characters with dark vision already, I was by far the most stealthy, so I would have to sneak ahead in pitch darkness and not be able to see anything. I never had a torch, then I would just get hit by enemies that I couldn't see. So after the big boss fight and everything, I'm having a kip on a pew in the underground temple, and then my character just wakes up and he can see his dark vision. He's a Gloomstalker, and that is because through sort of sheer will of survival, he's sort of recognised that the power of using the darkness and seeing in the dark is a super useful thing, and ambushing and all that kind of stuff. And he was Batman. Yes, he was Batman. And likewise, if you are a martial character, if you're a fighter or a paladin or something like that, then your subclass will be something that is very integral to your character and who you are. Like if you're a knight or a cavalier or whatever it is, fighter, then you can't just suddenly become that. It's got to be years of training, right? That's going to be more like you going from being a squire to a full on knight. I think that leveling up, getting the subclass, is probably one of the coolest role-playing moments in a character's arc. Okay, my fifth and final point about character creation is it's a little bit wishy-washy, but try and work out what your character's inattention is. So what I mean by that is you want your character to not just be two-dimensional, right? You want to have something that the character wants, which should be kind of quite open about, which is especially useful for your DM because the DM knows how to motivate your character, how to reward your character. If your character is interested in money, if that's their driving goal in what they do in life, then your DM knows that they will just give you reward, say to you that there is a gold reward for whatever you're doing, and that's it. Likewise, if you want to save the world and save the land and protect people and all this kind of stuff, or take down a villain, whatever it is. The inattention is something, it's like a sort of a secondary goal that is more integral to your character that maybe your character doesn't even realize yet. People go around all the time, they go to work and they're getting money and they buy new TVs and cars and stuff, and they say, that is what my goal is in life. They'll have this inner unrealized thing, this passion that they want to do, which makes them really happy, or this thing that they really need to solve out. Maybe it's like issues from the past, or maybe it's like a worry and anxiety about the future, or maybe it's something that's just not right in their life right now, which is really causing them some stress that they have to sort out. And this may seem quite heavy for a game of Dungeons and Dragons, but just try and think about your character's background, think about where they've come from, think about where they're going, why they're an adventurer. And D&D makes it a bit more easier than, say, modern day life, because you have things like loads and loads of gods, loads of religion, you've got like dragons, you've got demons, you've got other planes, all this kind of stuff. So you could go as deep into it as you want. So my ranger, who was the Gloomstalker, he left his people behind, and he wanted just gold. He was just living by doing stuff for gold. He was like a mercenary or a hunter or whatever. But he also had this inner conflict about his religion that he was brought up. He was brought up in a tribe that worshipped the sun. They were very religious. They prayed to the sun every day and every night. And that was something that he kept doing, even though he'd left that tribe long behind and become a part of civilization. And it was something that he just couldn't let go. And that was kind of his inner struggle, was like seeing other religions, questioning his own upbringing, questioning his own beliefs, but also really clinging to it, because that was the part of him that represented everything he knew. And that campaign didn't go on long enough for me to actually do anything about that. But I told the DM all of this. He could have come up with ways that would have been part of the story or part of what happened to my character much further on down the line. But it also made the character very interested in talking to the group's paladin and the group's cleric. Oh, you get your power from your religion. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't get any power from my religion. Does that mean my religion's rubbish and yours is great? Anyway, guys, that is my top 5 tips for character creation. Not my top 5, just 5 tips. Not even my top 5. I wasn't even trying. If you found these tips useful, then just let me know in the comments. That'd be really useful. I love your feedback. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in another video, also let me know. If you have tips for character creation, if you've created a few characters, or if maybe you've created a first character and you wish you could have gone back and done something else, or maybe you'd have wished you'd known something about character creation, then also just let me know, because I'll be really interested to find out. And also apologies if you've been distracted by that kind of shimmeriness. That is actually because of the Christmas tree over there. There you go. It's very nice. And that's it from me this week, everybody. If you want to read this, go to diceencounters.com, where you can find the video and in blog form as well. And I will see you next week for another video, which I think is going to be about diversity in D&D, how to get more people into the hobby. Because we kind of talked about this today, but I want to focus more on how to make that onboarding process easier and more interesting and more available to more different types of people. That's it from me, you guys. I will see you next week. Until then.